Hello, I'm Amy from moonmindology.com, and today I want to look at the chart of Christina Applegate. She's had a very interesting life, and I've seen her a lot in the news recently regarding her health, and so she's had some problems throughout her life, and I just wanted to have a look at this. So remember to like, comment, subscribe. So just a little bit of background about Christina Applegate. She was first well, I guess she gained recognition. She's an actress, starring as Kelly Bundy in Married with Children. And then she went on to do quite a few major films, and I think one of her biggest ones was Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. But she was also recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, but she's also had a double mastectomy because she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she also has a gene where she was at risk of ovarian cancer as well. So she's taken quite serious responses to serious diseases. But let's have a look at her chart. First of all, we look at the ascendant, it's Libra, and that's in Mrigashira. So she's the sort of person who's always chasing and searching for something. You know, as an individual, that she's looking for something to expand her. She may even collect things. Saturn's also here, so there could have been some kind of delay to her birth, but you know, she's a serious person, and there can be sadness and problems in the early life as well. The chart ruler is in the 8th house, and that creates somebody who's really, really charming and people want to be around them. So this position can create someone who finds occult sciences very interesting as well. There can be problems with an accident-prone nature, as well as low self-esteem as well. So she has had an accident, and the date was 10th of March 2005, which would have put her in the dasha of Saturn and Venus. And then right at the end, it can bring accidents, but there can also be romantic disappointments as well. So Venus and Mercury are conjunct, and this is really great for longevity, wealth, charm, which she has all of these things. But, you know, again, there's problems with accidents as Venus rules the 6th house, and that's health as well. But there's another reason that she's had health problems, and I think both Venus and Mercury being here, you know, their dashas can create a lot of issues, and there's some nervousness as well. So Mercury is the nervous system, and multiple sclerosis, or MS, is a disease of the central nervous system. So we can see quite obviously here, in hindsight of course. The 8th house gives, you know, as a positive, it gives great popularity, education, intelligence, communication, but of course she has those awful health issues, and when you have these two planets together, you can sometimes get, you know, a great singer or somebody who has a pleasant voice. And you know, she is indeed talented in the singing department, because I googled it, you see. I think she was in the original Pussycat Dolls as well, so she's very creative, and I think one of her main things was dancing. Jupiter's in the 7th house, and it opposes the ascendant, and this is really great, and it's probably the reason why she attained a lot of fame as well as personal luck. But it's the 8th house ruler, so it can send chronic disease to the ascendant. James Braha he's a great astrologer, and he always says that Saturn exalted rarely is good, and debilitated Jupiter is really bad. And of course, you know, Jupiter's a great benefic. How could it be negative? But it is certainly problematic for a Mercury-ruled ascendant. Debilitated planets in the 7th house is going to cause marital problems, and she's had at least 2 marriages. And there can be problems with conception as well, as Jupiter is the Karaka for children, but you know, also it's the husband as well. So there can be problems with self-doubt, indecision, pessimism. And, you know, there's also a weakness to the liver and the immune system itself. And MS is linked to the immune system. So it rules the 8th, and that can have problems that relate to chronic health complaints as well. The Sun and Neptune are conjunct. Exactly. And this is telling me straight off the bat that her father wasn't around, and I do think that her parents broke up within a year of her being born. But I also find that combination can really be linked to a feeling of hopelessness. And in some research I've done, this combination does tend to pop up in suicides. So it's not an absolute thing. But, you know, I have a friend who has this, and, you know, he's still chugging along. And I think it does, it gives you confusion, because Neptune brings confusion and Sun is the life force. So there can be stints of, you know, people feeling really low with this combination. Especially as the Sun is the soul and zest for life. And when Neptune starts to confuse that, you can lose it, find it difficult to be able to find that feeling of positivity. And I think people with this, they can bottle up their feelings as well. They pretend everything's fine, and it's quite a problematic nature in the grand scheme of things. So asking for help and dealing, you know, asking people to help you deal with these problems if you have this combination, I think is really important. It's also a very private combination as well. And I read recently that Christina Applegate, she said she really wants to be open and forthcoming with her struggles with MS. And she wanted to say that before, she did pretend that everything was fine when she had breast cancer, and she hid the true suffering, and she felt that in this situation she didn't want to do this again. She wanted to be wide open. She wanted to share her experience. She wanted to be, you know, fully open about it. And this, I do think that this is really a manifestation of her personality from that Sun and Neptune combination. But as I said, Saturn is here as well, so that makes it even more private, and Saturn can be linked to disease as well. So it's really bringing the energy together. And if you have this combination, you just need to learn to share your thoughts, your feelings, your fears with a trusted friend. You know, keeping it in is just not good for anyone. Make sure you ask for help, you know, even whether or not you do have this combination. Mars is in the 10th house, and it's conjunct the moon, and this is the Chandra Mangala yoga, so this is incredibly interesting. It brings a lot of wealth, but the relationship with her mother can be really problematic. And I have read that Christina was estranged from her mother, and they didn't talk for years. It's so interesting, as you've got the moon in the 10th house of fame, and even her mother, Nancy Priddy, she was a singer and actress and was famous herself, and equally Christina achieved fame. But Mars gets Digbala in this position, and it's so strong, which is probably why she was so good with dancing and athleticism. It's very forceful, and I wouldn't be surprised if she had technical abilities too, or she was a technical kind of actress or dancer, or technically perfect. But Mars can cause affliction to both the 4th house and the moon. So that really does create problems with happiness and her mother as well. And both Mars and the moon, they're to do with blood flow to the brain. So the moon is the brain and the breast, and Mars is the muscle and blood flow. And Saturn aspects both of these planets, and especially the brain and breast area are affected, or afflicted. Not only that, you know, she was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2008, and during that time she was in the dasha of Saturn and Mars, and both of these planets are in the nakshatra Shatabishak, which is all about hard to cure diseases. And cancer and MS, they're certainly, you know, difficult diseases to cure and deal with. We know that, but this nakshatra, there can be people in their life that have problems with addiction as well. and looking at this, I would wonder if it was like a sibling or a mother, her mother, but she doesn't have any full siblings. So the other clue on that is K2 in her third house, but we will cover that later. So did her mother have addiction issues? I can't find anything on that. I've looked all over the internet, but one thing I did pick up is that she did have a boyfriend who she broke up with, and he died of a heroin overdose. And I think that the whole problem with their relationship was that he was addicted to drugs, and this also happened in 2008. So it activated Mars, which does rule the 7th house of partnership. I've still got to really look into the research, looking at multiple celebrity charts and multiple sclerosis, but I do think that there is some kind of link between Moon, Mars, as well as an aspect from the 8th ruler to the ascendant, but I do need to do more research on this. But if you have any of those things and you go through a dasha and you start noticing symptoms where you have nerve issues, please go to a doctor. It's best to investigate these things rather than leave them, especially if you catch them early as well. So her nodes are in the 3-9 axes, and this shows us that she was the only child of both her parents. And Nancy Priddy only had one child. K2 in third, as I said, it gives special talents, creativity, great self-expression, great interest in philosophy, religion, and a hunger to learn as much as possible. But Rahu in the ninth, overwhelming father, and that can bring problems with him as well. So she's got quite a few signs to say that she's an only child. Then we have Pluto and Uranus in the 5th house, which can be really powerful and give her creative children. She only has one child, and she didn't have that child until she was in her 40s. As the 5th ruler is in the 8th, it can show that's delayed children or problems with conception or behavioural problems with children as well. And I don't know if her child was conceived naturally or not. I couldn't find anything on the internet to support that theory. But she has had her reproductive organs removed to deal with a threat of cancer in this area of body due to inherited gene. And of course genetics, that's linked to the 8th house as well. I read online that Christina was diagnosed with MS in 2021, which she most likely had for 6 or 7 years prior. And I would actually be in agreement with that when I look at her dashas, because she's currently in her Mercury cycle, which started in April 2014. And Mercury is in her 8th house of chronic disease. So that would have activated that house and what it could do and bring. A lot of people seem to be able to recover from MS these days with medical intervention, and I believe that once she is out of her Mercury cycle, she may not have so much of a struggle with this disease anymore as she currently does. And I wonder if she'll be able to even go back to work and do the things she loves again, as the 3rd house is expression, the ruler is in the 10th, so she may have public attention again, so that would be nice for her. But thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye.